Think French cinema starts and ends with Amélie or Godard? Think again. These 10 hidden gems dig deeper into heartbreak, identity, obsession, and the quiet corners of life. Underrated, unforgettable, and begging to be discovered. If you love film that lingers, these are the ones you don't want to miss. I still remember sitting in that cramped Arthouse theater, unprepared for the emotional earthquake Jean Eustache was about to unleash. 3 hours and 40 minutes of dialogue shouldn't captivate, and yet, I couldn't look away. This was a stark portrait of aimless intellectualism colliding with primal desire. Alexandre, a self-important Parisian drifter, juggles relationships between Marie, his older, financially supporting lover, and Veronica, a sexually liberated nurse he pursues. The film's power lies in its merciless conversations. Eustache's camera plants itself before these characters, unblinking, unflinching. They philosophize about freedom while entangling themselves in possessiveness. Jean-Pierre Léaud's Alexandre pontificates endlessly in cafes, talking literature, politics, revolution, but he freezes when faced with the emotional consequences of his supposed liberation. What shocked me wasn't the sexual frankness, though that still startles even now. It was Françoise Lebrun's monologue. A confession so devastating, so exposed, I found myself holding my breath for minutes. Her tear-streaked face became an accusation against all of Alexandre's empty rhetoric, against the hollow performance of liberation when it refuses to touch the soul. Nothing happens. And yet everything happens. No car chases, no explosions. Just the slow-motion collapse of human connection under the weight of failed ideals and desires that refuse to be theorized. This film sits uncomfortably in French cinema's legacy. Too long, too talky, too uncompromising in its refusal to offer resolution. But it captures something profound. That moment when sexual revolution collided with emotional need. A collision still echoing through our relationships decades later. I remember the exact moment I surrendered to Chantal Akerman's masterpiece. 2 hours in, watching Jeanne peel potatoes. My friend had already abandoned the screening, muttering something about watching paint dry. But something extraordinary was happening beneath that mundane surface. For 3 hours and 21 minutes, we witness a widow's meticulous routine. Cooking, cleaning, prostitution to support her son. Nothing dramatic happens, until everything does. The genius lies in Ackerman's refusal to cut away. She makes us sit with Jeanne, makes us feel her time, her silence, her prison. We become unwitting accomplices in her claustrophobic, perfectly ordered cage. Day 2. A slightly overcooked potato, a misplaced button, microscopic disruptions, and suddenly my heart is racing. Not from fear, but from a deep creeping dread. I found myself leaning forward, scanning the frame, desperate to catch the cracks forming in her routine. Delphine Seyrig's performance haunts me still. Her face becomes a landscape where the tiniest shift registers like an earthquake. And when she drops a spoon, a moment so small yet so devastating in its implications, I gasped, out loud. This Belgian-French film did not revolutionize cinema through spectacle. It did so through radical empathy. By dignifying so-called women's work with such unblinking attention, Ackerman transformed the invisible into something impossible to unsee. The final sequence, that quiet, shocking rupture in routine, left me frozen, long after the credits rolled. Not because it was unexpected, but because 3 hours of methodical buildup made it feel both inevitable and somehow cataclysmic. The hidden gem of French-language cinema. I wasn't prepared for the silence, the way director Pascal Ferrand leaves space, for glances to linger, for breath to catch, for Lady Constance Chatterley's world to crack open without fanfare or explanation. Walking into this film, I expected scandal. What I found instead was salvation. The story seems simple. An aristocratic woman, trapped in a loveless marriage, discovers passion with a gamekeeper. But nothing about this adaptation feels expected. Ferrand strips away the sensationalism that has clung to Lawrence's novel for nearly a century and reveals something far more subversive beneath. Marina Hand's Constance doesn't simply discover sex, she discovers herself. Her transformation unfolds in moments so intimate, so tender, that I sometimes glanced away, feeling like an intruder. A hand brushing against wildflowers, rain on bare shoulders, the startling vulnerability in her lover's eyes when he first stands naked before her. Not as a conquest, but as a human being asking to be seen. What makes this a hidden gem of French cinema isn't only the gorgeous cinematography or the César Award victories. It's the radical patience with which it treats female desire. While Hollywood rushes toward climax, Farron dwells in the journey, allowing Constance's awakening to unfold with precision, with reverence, with care. I found myself moved to tears, not by any grand romantic gesture, but by her gradual reclamation of her own body. Her astonishment at discovering joy had lived there all along. This isn't merely a period piece about forbidden love. It's a quiet revolution, challenging us to consider what happens when a woman's pleasure becomes the central narrative rather than an afterthought. The bell rings. School doors burst open, and suddenly, we're thrust into the chaotic universe of 13-year-old Anne Weber, navigating the treacherous waters of adolescence in 1960s France. Diane Curie's semi-autobiographical debut isn't just a coming-of-age tale, it's a revelation of feminine experience, rarely captured with such unfiltered honesty. Two sisters, two worlds. Anne longs for adulthood, while her older sister Frédérique already bears its weight. Their parallel journeys unfold against the backdrop of their parents' divorce and France's simmering political unrest. Curie's crafts moments so authentic, they feel stolen from personal diaries. Not written in a script. First periods, classroom humiliations, secret crushes, all portrayed with such unflinching clarity, it makes you wince with recognition. But what elevates this hidden gem beyond mere nostalgia is Curie's refusal to romanticize youth. The camera lingers on the mundane until it becomes profound. A shared glance between sisters, the sting of a teacher's offhand cruelty, forbidden lipstick hastily applied before the school bell. No melodramatic crescendos, no sweeping musical cues, just the quiet devastation of small moments that reshape us forever. While American films of the era portrayed teenage girls as boy-crazy stereotypes, Peppermint Soda offered something revolutionary, girls simply being human, with desires, with frustrations, with lives that extended far beyond romantic conquest. That authenticity makes this film more than a time capsule. It's a timeless testament to the universal experience of becoming. So there you have it. 5 French films that slip through the cracks but land with quiet power. They don't scream for attention. They whisper. They linger. They stay with you. If even one of these speaks to you, follow that instinct. Let it move you. Let it echo long after the credits roll. Which one are you watching first? Drop it in the comments, or better yet, share your own hidden gem. Let's uncover the films that deserve to be seen. Because sometimes the most unforgettable stories are the ones waiting patiently to be found.